Hello everyone, Ram here. This will be our last part of RAP architecture overview. In this, we will discuss about business service provisioning and service consumption. Let's get started. In my last video, we saw this particular architecture overview. In that, I told that this particular architecture overview shows us that how we can create one RAP application, what all are the tasks are involved to create one RAP application. In that, first part was the data modeling and behavior. In that, we have created the business object, which is included the data model along with the definition and implementation, or we can say data model along with the behavior. We have created the basic business object, and now is the second part, or we can say in the second task, what we will do, we will expose our business object in the business service provisioning. To understand the business service provisioning, first we will see what is business service. So business service is a ABAP as a language. It acts as a service provider as well and service consumer as well. When in the RAP perspective, business service acts as a service provider because it is creating the data model along with the behavior is part and one service, and that is providing to the consumer. Consumer can be anything, Fiori application or any other language that can consume this particular business service and in form of the web APIs. This can be done. But as part of this business service, there is again two parts: service definition and service binding. Service definition, in shorter term, we can say what all are the things we want to create as part of this definition, what all are the things we want to expose, and service binding define the protocols. We will discuss more about in upcoming slide. Before going to that, we will come to our architecture overview again. Then we can see this is business service provisioning. Provisioning means we are defining what can be the exposed to the outer world so the consumer can consume. We cannot consume whatever it is available, business object, everything. On top of that, we have to define something that's what needs to be consumed, because business object is the base object. It can be used somewhere else as well. For example, on top of the business object, we can create the multiple business services. To create that, we have to define one middle layer, something called the where we can define that what needs to be projected as part of this particular service. That we will do in this business service provisioning. Business service provisioning again divided in the different part: business object projection, service definition, and service binding. We will discuss one by one everything. Business object projection. This is the first layer where we are going to define our service specific thing. In my previous step, we have defined already business object. That business object is not specific to the service. That business object can be used in the multiple services. For example, I just want to take one example of the business partner and the customer, vendor, supplier. You can see the business partner can have a lot of common functionalities we are having in SAP. It can act as a customer as well, vendor as well, and supplier as well. So business partner become the base PO. It will be having a lot of common things along with the distinct things. So those all things we will define in the base PO. We will call the base PO. On top of this base PO, we will create the projections. So what is for example, I want to create one service where I can create a customer, I can delete the customer, I can modify the customer. That kind of application I want to create. For that, I can project this business partner BO as a customer, and I can add only the customer specific thing, and that in that particular BO where I can create, delete, and modify this particular customer. Now after some time that requirement came, now we want to add now we want to create one vendor object where we want to create one vendor application where we want to create, delete, and modify that vendor. So what we will do in this case, instead of creating again some separate business object, because we know a lot of fields in the customer and vendor are common, like the name, address, a lot of things are common, and one customer can act as a vendor as well for different things. It depends again. So to create that, what we will do, we will add the vendor specific thing in the business partner itself. Then along with the other field, we will project those in the vendor. So that's how we have the one base BO that is never act as a service specific, but the customer and vendor, the projected BO, that is a service specific, which is we are going to create for the deletion, updation and modification of that particular customer and vendor. That will be the different services. So as part of this business object projection, we will project the structure and the behavior from the base BO to the projected BO. Whatever we want to consume out of that particular business partner. So business partner has a wider things. There is a more fields. For example, 1,000 field in the business partner. Suppose out of 1,000 field, 500 is common and 100 is the customer specific, 100 is the vendor specific, and 100 is the supplier specific, and other fields also there. So out of 500, we want to 1,000, we want to add in the customer 700 field. 500 is common and 100 is 600. 100 is relevant to the customer. That we created the projection. And same way behavior. Suppose I want to, when I want to create the application, I want to do the for customer create, update, delete and modify everything, but for the vendor I just want to update and display that one. You can't create the vendor. Those kind of things I want to create. So only the update and the read part I want to project in the vendor projected BO. So like that we can segregate differently. This is the advantage of having the layering system. Not only that, apart from defining this particular different BO projections, one more advantage over there, we can define the service specific thing in this particular business object projection. Service specific thing, for example, I want to display different UI in front end for the customer and different UI for the vendor. So that I can UI specific thing I can do customer and vendor projected BO differently in this particular layer, and we can create the different value help calculation, defaulting of the values based on our service specific thing we can do in this particular layer. That is very basic advantage. So what is the advantage of doing this? Obviously there will be an advantage. Whatever we are making changes in the business partner, it will neither gonna impact the customer, vendor and supplier. If I can add in future one more thing, XYZ, apart from that customer, vendor and supplier, something else is there, XYZ, which is having the business partner common functionalities. I can add that particular field and I can add that relevant to that particular additional 10 field in the business partner. Apart from that functionalities already there, I can create one more branch over here. So what is the advantage of this one? We can extend this one further, and whatever we are making changes in the business partner, it will not gonna impact in customer, vendor and supplier services. So in that way we can say that particular basic business object is service agnostic. It will be not impacted by our service changes. So that is very most important thing. It remains stable under the modification of the underlying business object. We can change in the business partner. It will not gonna impact customer, vendor and supplier. Or just suppose example for customer 10 fields we want to add additionally. So we can add in this particular business partner. Let me do one thing, laser pointer. So we can add those 10 fields in the business partner and then we can add in the customer. It will not gonna impact the vendor and supplier. Future, if you want to add one more functionality, we can add in the business partner and you can add in the customer. It will not gonna impact vendor and supplier. So the business partner base BO will always stable. That is very important thing. And again one more, alias projection view. For example, we have something business partner, we have one field called the name one, and that name one I can project as the customer name in the customer BO projection. In the vendor BO projection, I can project as the vendor name, and the supplier I can project as the supplier name. I can change the alias name based on my requirement. That is again one more advantage. The service specific differences can be implemented in the respective projected length. So whatever the service specific changes, like I told you, if you want to do the some additional functionality in customer, that we can add here and add, that we can do here. It will not gonna impact other things. So that is the advantage of having when we are having the business object projection apart from the base BO we have. So that is the again second layer. Now we will see what all are the objects involved when we create the business object projection. This one I have already explained. So as part of the BO projection artifacts, what are the artifacts we are going to create? Mainly two artifacts are there. One is the CDS projection view and second is the projection behavior definition. CDS projection view define the what all are the fields you want to consume from your base BO. For example, in the base BO, you have the travel base BO. You might have that travel, then booking supplement. This is the your base BO structure. Now you want to create the on top of that projection. The one thing we have to remember, what all are the entities are available in your base BO. For those all entities, we have to create the projection. For example, in base BO, we have the travel, booking and booking supplement. Then we have to create the projection for the travel, booking and booking supplement. 3 projection views will be created on top of that one, and that in those projection view will define what all are the fields from the particular your base BO you want to consume. That in the base BO might be the more field, but in where you are in the projection BO, it can be the lesser number of fields, because you want to consume whatever you want to consume, that you will define in your CDS view or CDS projection views. Okay, and the behavior definition for projection, again just we will define what behavior you want to consume in is part of the service. In your base BO, it might be the all things are available. There might be the create, update, delete, modify, read, everything is available, but you want to do only the read and modify in this particular service. So you have to define only read and modify as part of this behavior projection behavior definition. Okay, and this is again the different artifact over there. We have to create the different artifact, and this will be created on top of the behavior definition of your base BO. And one more important, you can see the behavior definition BO is linked to the behavior pool, means your different classes, but your behavior projection is not linked to the classes. We can't do the implementation of your behavior projection. Whatever we have done in implementation of in base BO, that will be reflected to your projections, that we will see when we really go into the system in the detail. But just to give the what are the artifacts we need to create, that we can see. Now once we have created these many artifacts, now we have to create the service definition and service binding. That is again, it is a part of the BO projection, our second layer, we can say provisioning. We already discussed about the projections. In that I'm talking about this one, business service pro. We already discussed about the business object projection. Now we will discuss about the service definition and the service binding. In the service definition, we will define the scope to be exposed, and in the service binding, we will define the protocol version. What is the protocol we are going to use and which is the version. So if you see here in the detail, the service definition, we will define what all are the CDS entities which we have in our base projection BOs. Those out of them, what all are the CDS entity you want to expose it part of is part of this particular service definition. That we will all the CDS entities we are going to define here. Not only you can define from the one particular business object, those all the CDS entity, you can define from the multiple projection BOs are there from the different your flow, that you can combine and you can define all the CDS entities over here which needs to be exposed as part of this particular service. And third thing, whatever you define in the service definition, this is not dependent on any protocol which you are going to use. For example, you are going to use the OData V2 protocol or V4 protocol, or you want to use something called the SQL, you want to consume as a SQL or information services, INA. Whatever the way you want to consume, you can consume this particular service. Here we are not defining any protocol related thing, but as a counterpart in our OData video series we saw, once we have created the OData service, we have defined everything. We can't change the protocol we were defining initially itself. You want to create V2 V4 protocol, you want to create, so once we define that one, so that will be V2 services only. You can, if you want to create that particular thing as a part of V4, you have to do entirely new development. But in here case, you define the service, Here we didn't define any protocol. That is the reason we are saying that it is protocol agnostic. On top of that, when we create the service binding, where there we will define the protocol. So that is very important thing. And this is again, the service definition is a part of the ABAP repository object. Here we will do everything, whatever you will do, normal ABAP repository object, like syntax check will be done, or it will be activated, it will be transported from one system to another system. Those all the things, whatever we will do normally with the ABAP object, we can do, and with this also, because this is again ABAP repository object only, service definition. The next things which you are going to create is the service binding. There actually we will define the protocol related thing. So we can say ABAP repository object used to bind a service definition which we created in previous step. It will bind to a particular protocol. Protocol means client service communication protocol. One of the example is we use is the OData. There is another example is the INA, information access. We can consume as a SQL as well. These are the different protocols are there. So we can consume that is those protocol. We define those protocol in this particular service binding. So it defines the specific protocol. It can be V2 or it can be V4, or apart from the specific protocol, we will define how this particular service will be consumed. Is a UI it will be consumed, or is a web API it will be consumed. That also we will define in this particular service binding. And third thing, the business service binding is again, this is also a ABAP repository object. Whatever we can do normal object, we can do with this object. If we find out the relation, one service binding always have one service definition. Without service definition, you can't create the service binding. In same way, one service definition always have at least one CDS entity or business object, part of business object that we want to consume. So this is the relationship, but in the one service definition, there can be n number of CDS entity, and one service binding, there can be n number of service definitions. So this you can see, this is the how relationship between those CDS entities, service definition and service binding, that we have to remember. And when we create that, how we can create one service binding using the multiple service definition, that also we will see when we go for the particular practical things when we go into the system. And the last thing is the service consumption. As I told you, once we define the service binding, either we can, there we will define, we will be consumed, we are going to consume as a Fiori application, or we are going to consume as a web API. So as you can see, we can consume either, once we created the OData service, is a UI service or is a web API. First we will discuss if you want to consume that particular OData service as a Fiori UI. Fiori UI, so what is the advantage over there? A OData service that is exposed as a UI service is consumable by the SAP Fiori element app. If you want to consume any application in your any OData service in the Fiori element app or Fiori element application, that should be exposed as a UI service, not as the web API. Because when we develop the OData service for the SAP Fiori element applications, we will add the metadata extension file. We will give the lot of UI information. I forgot to tell that that metadata extension file we will add at the projection layer. I told you UI specific thing we will do at the projection layer, but we will add that their metadata extension file. We will provide a lot of UI informations, and based on those UI informations, the front end applications, all are the components will be rendered. So this is how when we create as a UI service, this is how we have to define OData service as a UI service. And one more important thing, once we develop that particular service, we can preview directly in the service binding tool. Once we create the service binding, there is a preview button there. You can, basic application you can preview there itself. You don't need to go to any of the front-end development tool like the BAS Business Application Studio or somewhere else. Wherever you are developing the front-end application, you don't need to go there. You can preview here itself and see what all are the your annotations, how it is impacting in your applications. The next thing, when we expose a OData service is a web API, this is little bit different. When we don't want to consume that OData service in any front-end tool, just we want to we have created that OData service to give the information to the other consumer. Just for example, weather API, just we want to give the what all are the weather information is there. For example, movies, I have created one auditor service based on the historical movies. I just want to give that information to the as a service provider who want to whoever want to consume, you can get the information. Those kind of APIs we will develop in form of the web API. Just we want to give the information. We are not developing any application out of that particular information as of now, but it can be developed further, or this information can be used anywhere, somewhere else. So one more thing, when we develop this kind of web API, it can be consumed anywhere. It is public interface in any OData, access the OData service. For example, another OData service also call this particular OData service, and then further it can be consumed somewhere else. Like that also it can happen. It depends. And what one more thing we can do with this web APIs, we can maintain it is released or not. Once it is released, which version is there, versioning also we can maintain. And if the older version is no longer used, we can deprecate those version as well. Like that, those kind of things we can do with the web APIs. This is the basic difference between the UI services and the web APIs. I think we have completed each and every aspect of architect overview. We have seen the lot of theory part. I know it's difficult to grasp all the things in one hand, but no need to worry. When we develop the real object one by one, this whatever we have discussed throughout this series till now, when we develop again, try to understand and combine theory with practical, and we will see how it is gonna happen. Before going to those videos, please like this video, share this video with others as well. With that, thank you and happy learning.